Good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome from anywhere in the world, wherever you are. It's a joy to see you again, all of you.
Welcome back, everyone. This is our last day of conversation of the 22-day conversations on Palestine. And many of you have been with us every day. We've really built this sense of community, seeing each other's familiar faces, seeing each other tears, shared grief. We've shared helplessness. We've shared rage. And this is what it feels like this time is about. We were just sharing with our presenters that our hearts are broken, and they're really broken. There's tears coming. And how do we imagine otherwise through our tears? Is that even possible? Moments, maybe yes, it's possible, and in other moments, it feels like impossible task. But of course, nothing ends with the end of this conversation. This is nothing would end until we see the end of this genocide. We have permanent ceasefire, and we see the end of the occupation. Ultimately, that's when we.
Yeah, and even then, we'll continue to liberate the world, because we need justice everywhere for every human being and every creature in this planet.
And many of our speakers shared how, in a way, Angela Davis said, Palestine is the
litmus test,
moral litmus test for humanity at this time. And many of our speakers connected the struggle for liberation that our Palestinian brothers and sisters are leading, and they have been for 100 years. It's connected, interwoven with struggles all over the world, including here in Turtle Island in the US. But despite of the darkness, the rage, the grief, we have to keep imagining otherwise. We have to. And I don't know if you've seen, but I was really touched. A few days ago, I saw on social media a post with the sky in Gaza with hundreds of of kites. And the woman was saying, this is our liberated sky. We see it. We're not there yet, but this is what we're holding. This is what we're imagining. Our sky is going to be liberated. There will be planes. We will be able to travel. We're going to be able to leave this land and come back. We'll be able to see our land. I think one of our speakers said, we'll be able to see our land from above, which so many of 2 generations of people who have been born there, they have never been able to see their land from above. They have never been able to leave the walls of the prison. There were many questions that came in these 21 days, that they're questions that I imagine we're going to live through. Then we're not going to find answers, but we will just keep echoing and keep walking with those questions. And I'm just going to highlight a few, and I hope in the next conversation we can touch perhaps on some of those as well. And we spoke about what is solidarity for this moment, what is healing in the shadow of a genocide, how to resist, how can we resist and surrender while we surrender. How do we stand for justice without othering? How do we stand strong and how do we have strong backs and soft fronts and keep letting our hearts break? And what is love asking of us? How do we come back to love? How do we feel the rage for the injustice and the brutality that we see on our screen? And how do we
go back to love?
Go back to love. And have we done enough? many of us who sit here in the comfort of our homes and watch have that deep sense like, I can never do enough. I might not. So that's a question. Have we done enough? What does it even mean to do enough? Again, in the face of such unspeakable darkness. So these are some of the questions we've been grappling with and we will continue to grapple. You want to introduce
I want to introduce it, and I want to say this is the last event of this 21, which really are 22 days, but please don't become a stranger, because we want to continue stay in touch with you. We want to continue do something. We will continue when the opportunity will appear. We will continue offering other events like this, and we want to see your faces. We want you with us. So let me introduce Rae, that she will be hosting this.
Our dear friend Rae, who has done so much, has supported us so much in sharing the film, connecting, making this web of solidarity, of connections, of partners, of brothers and sisters who are standing and making a stand for free Palestine. So thank you, Rae, for being and walking this path along with us.
You've been a gift when you appear in our team.
Gift.
You've been a gift to us in this process.
Thank you.
So,
thank you, Maurizio. There's so many of us who are tuning in every day and just want to send the biggest hug to you both for your courage and wisdom to call us together again and again and again, and to take on speaking out in this way with so much heart. And for those of you who are tuning in from places other than the San Francisco Bay Area, let me just say watching the film on the big screen at the theater in Oakland the other night was such a powerful moment, a blessing, sold out performances. So just giving gratitude to you both. Big honor for weaving us together. And by way of introduction to friends who I haven't met yet, my name is Rae Abileah. I live on unceded Ramaytush Ohlone land on the California coast here in Turtle Island, United States. And I'm grateful to be holding space for this conversation today amongst friends, old and new, and to be imagining together. When I was ordained as a Jewish faith leader some years back, the title I was given is Oreget HaNevuot, which is Hebrew for weaver of prophecies. And when I get to connect different Palestine solidarity organizations with the Where Olive Trees Weep film, that feels like the holy task of weaving together prophecies, of coming together in a global movement for solidarity. So I'm grateful to be here with you all. And as Zaya mentioned, we are coming together with our heartbreak, with our grief. This conversation, the seeds of this conversation were planted actually back mid-January when Sand convened Meital and Sulaiman for a conversation on loss and personal stories of grief and transformation. And after that conversation, we said, it's not enough to only look at the past and the loss, and why not also have a conversation imagining the future? And here we are 6 months later, and there's still not a ceasefire. And people are starving, children are starving in Gaza today, right now, while we're on this meeting. So how do we sit with that? So I'm welcoming everyone with all the emotions that you're bringing, welcoming you to stay well-resourced in this conversation, maybe take a glass of water, have it nearby, stay hydrated. That's also a way that we can plant the seeds of this conversation in our bodies and water them so that we can continue to live into those teachings. And I want to quote Adrienne Marie Brown, who says, I believe that all organizing is science fiction, that we are shaping the future we long for and have not yet experienced. All organizing is science fiction. Wow. So it's incredible to sit with our 4 speakers today, and I want to welcome and introduce you each. We have Sami Awad. Welcome, dear friend. Sami is a Palestinian Christian living in Bethlehem with his wife and 3 daughters. And he's the former executive director of Holy Land Trust, which is an incredible Palestinian organization established in Bethlehem in the late 1990s. And he's also the co-director of Nonviolence International, and you may have seen him in the film Israelism as well. Welcome.
Thank you.
Sulaiman Khatib. Welcome, Suli. Suli is the Palestinian co-founder of Combatants for Peace, nominated for the Nobel Peace Prize. He's been recognized internationally for his contributions to promote peace, social justice, and equality for all, and has created space for joint memorial services, even in times of crisis such as these. Grateful to be here with you, Suli.
Thank you.
I want to welcome Bayo Akomolafe. Bayo is rooted in the Yoruba people and is a celebrated post-humanist thinker, poet, and author. So grateful that you're here with us, Bayo. And I want to welcome dear friend meital yaniv, who is an ex-Israeli soldier, author, poet, and ritualist, whose book Bloodlines is an epic and intimate dive. It's really a love letter addressing the Israeli apartheid regime from the perspective of being an ex-Zionist soldier. Thank you for being here, meital, for your courage. So you can see all of their bios in the chat, and please follow the work of this incredible crew of people. And just as I began mentioning Adrienne Maree Brown, I also want to quote an unlikely suspect who is Milton Friedman. Milton Friedman is this neoliberal person from United States history who says, and writes a lot of the UK, but he says that in a crisis, the politically impossible becomes the politically inevitable. Only in a crisis, actual or perceived, produces real change. When that crisis occurs, the actions that are taken are dependent on the ideas that are lying around. And this is where Naomi Klein gets this idea of a shock doctrine of, in a crisis, corporations and people who are hungry for power can move in and advance their ideas. And I'm sharing that only to say that a lot of us can't imagine what's possible outside of what we know to be real or true and what ideas are lying around. And so a prayer for this conversation is that we maybe can add some more ideas to the table of what's possible, more ingredients into this, what's the recipe of what's possible. So in that context, we have this very big question today, which is, when you dare to dream of a just and thriving Palestine, what do you see? What does it feel like? And can you bring us there? That's an ambitious place to start, but I want to begin with our heartbreak and also what's possible. And I want to ask Sami, I see you're off mute. I'm curious if you might want to begin sharing.
Yeah, thank you, Rae, and thank you everybody for being here. Thank you everybody for the love, for the heart, for the support, the solidarity, and the stance that you are all given for the people of Palestine at this time, for justice, for ending occupation and ending oppression. And I, as you said, and as has been said, and as we all agree, that what is happening in Palestine is a microcosm of what is happening in many, many areas in the world, and actually every place in the world. The level of intensity might be different, the level of violence might be different, but we are all facing these systems of oppression, these systems of suppression and denying us our most basic rights as humans, no matter where you are, even in the Bay Area, right? What is happening in the US is very, very worrying to many of us around the world as well. And in that, the invitation is for all of us to dream together. Dreaming of a future Palestine is a dreaming of a future world. What is that we see? What is it that we see when people who have faced such oppression for so many decades are able to breathe that fresh air of the sea of Gaza without smelling the stenches of smoke bombs or the smell of sewage that hasn't been treated and misplaced? What is it when we envision that future? We envision children in their true celebration of who they're supposed to be as children, not as a 10-year-old child carrying a 2-year-old child because the mother died and that's the only parent that has been left for that child. And so for me as a Palestinian, yes, there is a dream. There is a dream that I see for the future. And that dream is not actually the future of Palestine. It's the dream that has to and must include all the people that live in this land that many people around the world actually call holy. A dream where we are truly able to create the model where Jews, Christians, and Muslims, and those who have no faith or those who are of different faith can honor and respect and celebrate the diversity of who they are. A dream where there are no checkpoints, there are no walls, there are no boundaries, there are no settlements, but there are neighborhoods that we're all able to go and visit and see and connect with. And the thing that I want to share is that what's very, very important for all of us to realize is that this dream is not something that is just an image of the future. This dream is actually something that is built on the past that existed in this land. It's very, very important for us to say that this land has not been a land that, not as many like to claim, has been entrenched in wars and conflicts for millennium. That people here are born hating each other for thousands of years. Even some religious people claim it to go back to the time of Abraham's kids, Ishmael and Isaac. And this is such like this ancestral warfare that's going on that makes many people think if it's going on for this long, then we cannot do anything about it. This land has experienced peace. This land has experienced many, many years where these communities, Jews, Christians, and Muslims, lived next to each other as neighbors. My father was born in Jerusalem. He was born in a neighborhood where Jews, Christians, and Muslims lived together. They celebrated each other's holidays. They were actually closer to each other than many of us are with our neighbors today. They knew each other. They fed each other. The women breastfed the children of their neighbors when that needed to happen. And so for us, it's not just a dream of where we want to go, but it's more like a dream of how do we go back to what was, and to really address the issues that have prevented us from living that dream again. To address issues of colonialism, to address issues of ideologies that prefer one group of people over another, to address issues where one group has exclusivity religiously over others. And so for us, the dream is very, very possible. The future is very possible. And I love this quote, in the crisis, it can happen. And I think many of us, Suli and I, have been meeting with many Palestinians and many Israelis over the last few months, actually dreaming together this dream, because in this crisis, we actually don't have a choice but to dream of that future together.
Beautiful, thank you. I'm curious, Suli, can you bring us into some of those conversations that you've been having and what your vision is?
Thank you everybody joining, and thanks for the movie, the support and solidarity. I firstly want to add to my brother Sami's beautiful description and talk. For me, practically even part of the dream is really connected to the olive trees. Coming from a family outside of Jerusalem also that lived also in harmony, without romanticizing the past, to say lived in harmony with each other, like with different religion practices and so on. And 2007, when the Israeli built the separation wall outside of Jerusalem, the wall has cut my family land, the trees, the olive trees, the grove, apart. So the army has allowed my family to uproot the old olive trees, which we call it Romani. It's like really centuries. It's very, very old, like from our ancestors. They were very connected to this specific place. And this was heartbreaking for my family. My father got heart attack after this. Actually, this was because for our families and especially for our ancestors, there is no separation between the trees and the people and the animals and everything. There was a more harmony than now. So we replanted some of these trees next to my family's house, and we thought it will die. It's very old trees. And actually, a few months ago, I think I shared this with Sami, in a moment when I was like, I need also to breathe and got inspired and energy. I went to my mom's house, where my mom is very connected to the story. And I saw that this olive tree is again, like born again, like they have new branches. I honestly was, wow, this was like life to see. So for me, imagining a different world and a different Palestine and different land and different life is fully, that's what motivates me actually. And that's what wake me up in the morning. And I believe that this darkness is not a fate, not the only option. Uh, and as Sami mentioned, like we have like centuries of living together in this region that we can refer to and not just like highlight the traumatic past events. I struggled since my childhood and with others for the liberation of our people. And when I say our people, I really mean everyone from the river to the sea that really have the right to connect with this land and to celebrate this connection with this land. And the connection with the land is not threat to anyone and should be celebrated with all the differences and the diversity. Um, it's not just the physical liberation that we can move freely without borders and checkpoints and more checkpoints and military and security and all of the policies that we know, rather than even more freedom within our communities as well to really um, bring the creativity back and bring the imagination back. And I'm really happy this session is addressing the imagination, because for so many people right now at this moment, with what's happening in Gaza and actually just around here, even where we live, I just like saw that they basically closed most of the entrances to Ramallah with iron, with gates. So it's like basically we live in a little ghettos everywhere separated. But I really believe that um, our desire for freedom, our longing for freedom is much stronger. Our longing for life energy is much stronger than all the military industry, to say. And definitely, I believe this land, as it's important to millions of people around the world, is really a model, can serve as a model for a different world. And I believe a different world is possible. And as Sami mentioned, since the war started, um I am an optimistic person by my nature. It's in my DNA. I have nothing even to do with practical reasons. I have this through my jail time. I never lost hope, despite the physical punishment in jail, even in the hunger strike time where we don't eat, come from the very strong principle of sumud, to steadfast, and the connection to the land gives you a lot of power and energy. So in that sense, I really uh, feel also responsibility to make the change happen here. And in the last few months, we gather a lot of people, especially at Sami Place, open his house for us, actually serving for us to meet and to talk and to envision and to heal, and individually and as a community, and to build what's possible. And it's really important to serve as a model for what's possible in future, because most people lost hope and they don't know anything else. So it's really important to have also the events we do, like the joint memorial ceremony to humanize each other, and the Nakba ceremony and other events we do. It's bigger than us as a small groups. Thank you.
Oh, thank you, Suli. Okay, it's Meital. Do we want to speak into this collective dreaming?
Thank you. Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here. Yeah, thank you doesn't feel enough. Like, I feel like there's been so much wood and kindling gathering for this fire of the last 21 days. So just thank you to everyone who has put labor into this. Yeah, imagining otherwise is a concept I I tend to and grapple with a lot. Given the way that I was raised within an extreme Zionist ideology, and my journey of undoing that indoctrination and that conditioning, shedding it, decomposing it. Imagining otherwise for me at this moment is really a prayer to bring the Israeli identity and Israeli state to a loving and caring death. And I mean every word of that prayer. Because I don't know, like the undoing of this indoctrination will take the rest of my life, and I hope just this life. But what I do know from this moment is that the energy of Zionism and Israelism is not energies that sustain life or that are in service of life. So there is no life with those identities, with those energies in the forefront. And in order to imagine otherwise, we need to get to a point where our hearts break. And I don't see enough Israelis at this point with broken hearts. I don't see enough Zionists around the world with broken hearts. And I mean like the shattering broken heart. Like, I don't know how to look at one more image. I don't know how to tend to one more prayer for a child, for a man, for an incarcerated person who did nothing, for a woman, for a being, for the land, for another olive tree, for another whale that probably died from some shrapnel, for everything that is burning right now. So I say this, I don't feel like I get to imagine Palestine when Palestine is free. It's not my imagination to do, because I am too conditioned within an energy that cannot sustain the life of Palestine. People, land, elements, water, underground roots. So my imagination, and I invite people who hold the identities that I do, our imagination to do is to imagine the healing that we need in order to break our hearts. So I want to share a very quick story to kind of illuminate what I'm trying to say. I'm still in some kind of connection with my family, my extended family. They all live as occupiers on the land of Palestine. Again, very Zionistic soldiers, commanders, and the like. And it's also my nieces and my nephews and my cousins and everyone that I know. And in this past my entire life, right? This book that I wrote is a way for me to try to break their hearts so that we can like tend to it. But in this last 9 months, I keep trying to make them feel in many ways, in the shocking ways, in the saying what they don't want to hear ways, in the listening ways, in just any way. And there was actually a conversation that our friend Khanin did with Sand about the mysticism in Gaza. And what was so profound for me in hearing Khanin is just the way that she spoke about Gaza as her home and everything that home holds, the relationships, the love, the everything that a life holds, right? And I listened to it and I was like, wow, I wonder if this is a way for my family to hear, because it's not speaking about politics, which they like to say, we don't speak politics to each other, because they have a way of separating those things as if it's not their entire life. But I was like, this is an opportunity for them to hear someone who's my friend, and I can introduce them as my friend and just hear about their life. And I shared it with my family. And I shared it from that place. I said, I really want to help you understand who we are killing and who lives there, and just to meet the people. And this is a close friend of mine. And after you hear it, I'm here for the conversation. Like, please call me if you can hear this. Please call me and we'll talk about it. And the responses I received, I'm not going to repeat them because there's no need to repeat those kind of words. But the responses that I received were not able to hear anything that was said in that conversation. Not a single word, not one word. There wasn't an ounce of compassion or understanding or a mirroring of their life, nothing. There was more victimhood and more hate, and a hate that is, we are hating the way we were hated. And that is a terrible thing. And so I share this to say that I will continue to try and break their hearts, and that we don't have time to wait for that process. So I want to invite the world, people who are listening, to continue to fight to seize us in the most, like, I'm not even talking from the heart anymore, like in a logical place, just boycott us, divest, stop the arms sales, just make us seize, give us not another option. And then it will be on me and people with me to heal, to break our hearts, to heal, to look at the images I've been trying to show them for the past 9 months. And from that place, we will be able to meet the vision that Sami is talking about and Soli is talking about, a vision of a land that has always just wanted to be home. A land that has always just wanted to be home. With enough resources, so many, that land, I mean, and the lineage in my family that is resisting the most is the Arab Jewish lineage. And that is something for us to really hold. This was never a war, a fight, a conflict between Jews and Arabs. They made it that way in the logic. So to even know that that is the part of my lineage that is resisting the most is once again to explain why I don't get to imagine Palestine when Palestine is free. But I get to imagine myself healed and supporting the people that need that healing that I am walking with to heal so that we can be there for that. And at that moment, I mean, I keep saying this, I can't wait to offer our home. I can't wait for the day that I will be able to offer my parents' home to a Palestinian family. And it will be an act of love. And I will ask permission to plant an olive tree, and inshallah, may they let me. I cannot wait for that day. But for us to get there, there's so much that needs to happen, because if it happens from shame and punishment and guilt, we're just restarting the cycle. Yeah, thank you.